Well, welcome back to this insanity. Welcome back to Chaos Head Noah. Last episode was very interesting. We basically got a quest to save Nanami, and we blew it. So, yeah. Where do we go from here exactly? We almost got our sword. We didn't. We almost saved Nanami. We didn't. Or rather, apparently we didn't. Shogun said he was gonna make sure she died if we didn't do things. But I also wonder how that's gonna happen, especially with just the interaction here. One thing I noticed, one thing that occurred to me, was we were talking about how Shogun has never really talked through a voice synthesizer before. He's always just kind of been there when he's done the group dive and things like that, but not when he's directly interacting with us in reality. The only time he's directly interacted with us has been in a delusion during the whole empty Shibuya incident. If we are Shogun and we need to talk to ourselves from another time, then that would explain why we had to talk through a speaker, some sort of synthesized little Darth Vader Spider-Man helmet sitting in a wheelchair, instead of actually being there in person, because Shogun couldn't be there in person, because we are the person. So, does that mean we still need to enact our side of the Shogun conversation from our end somehow? In the same way we had to upload that group dive video from room 37. I'm assuming that happened just before Yua barged in on us. Also, what's Rimi up to? We talked to her about the sword and the fact that Fess, aka Ayase, has one, and she sort of visited the hospital where Ayase's at for who knows what reason? What's going on there? How's she going to be of assistance moving forward? Well, in any case, we're heading for an ending. It doesn't look like it's going to be a very good one. But let's see where we go here. Time for the aptly named Psychopath chapter. So where are we? Probably headed home from our complete and total abject failure. Or maybe Rimi's coming to us. Or maybe we're someone else entirely. Despite midnight quickly approaching, the ticket gates of the subway's Hanzomon line were still filled to the brim with people. Yeah, Shibuya was busy because of the whole incident. Oh, also this. The earthquake had violently disrupted the public transportation schedules, and no one was even attempting to hide their frustration as they passed through the ticket gates. Well, it'd be like that. Oh, we're Ban. Employing a sidelong glance, Ban Yasuji inspected the monitor, resting in the station attendant booth. The station staff had received a call yesterday during their morning operation. The caller had reported that a high school girl wielding a gigantic bladed weapon... Wait, what? You can see that? Was going on a rampage in the area. The police had been dispatched in response to this, but upon arriving at the scene, they found no trace of the girl nor the man who had been supposedly attacked. Where did they say that happened? I thought they said it was not the park, because that's where Senna did that. Ban, who had happened to overhear the story earlier today, was very interested in the appearance of the male victim. The fact that there had been several similar incidents had also caught his attention. That was why Ban was making an appearance here at such an hour. According to his sources, the incident had been captured in full on one of the surveillance cameras. When Ban asked the station attendant to show him the video, they willingly agreed but warned the detective that the video was a little creepy. I want to see the creepy video. Duly noting this, Ban elected to have them show him the video. The video was full of static. Maybe it's from the earthquake, Ban thought to himself. There had been various reports about the earthquake causing citizens to lose hard disk data, leaving Ban to wonder whether it was related. Yeah, magnetic media, they said, was damaged by the earthquake. It would be difficult to identify anyone in the recording, as they were just barely visible. The recording featured a single man. He was standing by the wall in the far right-hand corner of the screen. Okay, so it wasn't in the park. This was in the ticket area, the subway. That's what I thought. Why would this place have security footage of the park? The wall was located slightly far from the ticket gates, meaning passengers would not travel past it very often as they were changing trains. Incidentally, a few other passengers had just crossed in front of the camera. The man's appearance was hard to make out due to the fierce static, but he was fairly short and thin, and he was carrying a large rucksack. Damn these rucksacks. What exactly he was doing, Ban could not say. After about an hour or so had passed in the video, a small change occurred. So has Senna just gone on a rampage to take out the rucksack squad? Is that what's happening? A few people commuting to work were walking in the direction of the man, and then they swiftly stopped. To Ban, it looked as if they had been drawn to the man with the rucksack. What was truly strange, however, was that they did not even speak to him. They simply stood there in a daze. The people who had stopped did not seem to be acquaintances of the man. They were of different ages, sexes, statures. There was absolutely nothing they all shared. What in blazes is going on? Staring at the monitor, Ban tilted his head to the side, and as he did so, a lone girl entered the frame. Let me guess, long black hair? Yep, she had long hair and she was wearing a uniform from Sumei Academy. Alright, so yeah, Senna is on a mission. The girl headed straight for the man with the rucksack in a manner that could only be described as exuding nothing but pure, unadulterated confidence. Her movements were entirely unlike those who had stopped before. Instead of halting, the girl pushed aside the people gathered there and seized the man by his collar. For a short period of time, the two of them argued about something. Rather than argument, however, it was far closer to the girl simply screaming at the man without giving him room for air, or at least that was how it appeared. A few of the people who had stopped seemed to return to their senses and promptly left the scene. Eventually, the girl thrust the man away from her, and then his rucksack just exploded, because I'm sure the sword wouldn't show up on camera. The girl took a step back from the man who had fallen on his rear, then assumed a strange pose. She lowered her hips and brought both her fists next to her ears. Yeah, the girl looked as if she was holding something, but there was nothing in her hands. According to the report, the girl had been wielding a large blade, but where on earth she could be hiding such a thing? The answer to that soon became apparent. Hey, you! Suddenly, the screen, the camera, shook. It was not static. The rustling hair and clothes of the passers-by made it clear the surveillance camera itself was shaking. What the... Is that sword showing up on the screen now? Ben gawked at the screen. He had no idea where she had retrieved it from, but the next thing he knew, the girl was holding a gigantic sword in her hand, one that was longer than she was tall. So these things show up on surveillance equipment? That would be interesting. Ban asked for the tape to be rewound, just so he could confirm what he had seen. But no matter what angle he examined it from, the sword appeared to have been just conjured out of thin air. The girl had not moved a single muscle. She had remained in her hunched position the entire time. This much was undeniable. What kind of magic trick is that? The people in the video went into a panic when faced with the sudden appearance of the sword. But the girl did not seem to care about the people around her. Yeah, Senna gives no fucks. The man with the rucksack, however, was very clearly terrified. He tried desperately to scramble to his feet and run away. But the girl would not allow that. With incredibly agile movement, she pursued the fleeing man and swung her gigantic sword as if it were light as a feather. These guys need to be in a fighting game or something. Add these guys to Blaze Blue Cross-Tag Battle. It needs to be the new franchise. In a manner akin to a violent windstorm, the sword tore the man's rucksack to pieces. I'd main Senna, no problem. The impact was so strong, the man immediately collapsed to the ground. Despite this, he appeared uninjured. In fact, when the police officers had arrived on the scene immediately after receiving the call, they had not found even a single trace of blood. Who the hell is this girl? Then, as if the girl had heard Bond's murmuring, something that should have been impossible considering it was a recording, she suddenly turned toward the camera. The screen ever so slightly distorted. Huh? And the girl's figure disappeared in an instant. Yep, Senna knows flash step. It was as if she had never been there to begin with. Yeah, good luck catching her. The man's shredded rucksack had been left behind, and the remnants of it were proof that the girl had been there. It was hard to tell because of the static, but it was clear that the girl had disappeared from the screen in less than a second. Bond rewound the tape again. There was nothing that seemed unnatural about the time displayed in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. In other words, the footage had not been edited. But if that were true, how could Ban explain the girl and the sword? Ban, feeling as though he had seen a ghost, could do nothing more than remain completely and utterly puzzled. Yeah, you're out of your element here, buddy. I wonder what Sue is going to end up doing, because he made that deal with our nurse friend. A world of complete and utter white. And I was lying right in the center of it all. I felt as if I was floating, but I didn't know whether or not I actually was. This is reminiscent of the opening cutscene. I couldn't figure out what direction I was facing. Not up, not down, not left, nor right. The silence was deafening. It felt as if there were hundreds of insects buzzing around in my head at once. Are you being targeted by the rucksack gang? If someone were to tell me that this was the afterlife, I couldn't see myself contesting it. That was how. Monotonous, simplistic, tranquil, orderly, immaculate, empty, and peaceful the world was. Perhaps this was what the mind of Buddha was like upon reaching enlightenment. It was so incredibly different from my own mind. I wanted to stay here forever. The irritation that came with reality, the loneliness, the pain, the suffering, I didn't want to face any of it anymore. As my thoughts began to cascade, I heard a noise burst into the white world that had previously been silent. Was that our crate door? The sound of a door being opened, and the sound of someone's footsteps getting closer and closer. Remy? Never mind. Oh, well, we're dreaming. Big bro, I'm here! Let's see. Oh, I'm glad you're safe. Don't kill yourself. Hey, big bro. Okay, so today I decided to bring you something really nice. Can I have my hand back? All right, here it is. I got you a present. It's a hand-knit hat. How did I make this, if it's hand-knit? But Tish, it looks so nice and warm, doesn't it? Well, it is. Anyway, so the story is, you know how much I already like hats, right? Well, since it's winter and all, I went ahead and knitted one. So go on, try it on. Come on, don't ignore me. Oh, you still got some food left over. And it's curry, too. You gotta make sure you eat up, all right? Hey, so, is it true that hospital food's not very good? Is that where we are? We're in the hospital? Well, that's sad, but you still need to eat it. Oh, come on, wake up, big bro. If you go to bed without eating, your stomach's gonna end up growling in the middle of the night. Someone's hand made its way under my back and forcibly shook my body awake. That was when I first realized that my eyes had been closed. So had the whole Nanami kidnapping thing just been a bluff? And we couldn't really tell because Nanami didn't have her phone? And Nanami's just going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? So are we hallucinating or is this for real? When I opened my eyes, a little girl was standing there. It was Nanami, my little sister. Oh, this is a memory. So this is back when we were actually in the hospital. But she was awfully little. It was Nanami from a long time ago. But how long ago, I wondered. She must have been at least in elementary school. Okay, say ah. The younger Nanami scooped up some curry with a plastic spoon, then offered it to me. And I slapped the hand holding the spoon. Even after all this time, I still don't know what had been going through my head, but in that moment, I knocked away the tray of curry and rice with my hand and sent it crashing to the floor. Well, that wasn't very nice. Big bro, those are some real bad manners, you know. I'm gonna tell Mom. Nanami crouched down to the floor and picked up the tray I'd cast aside. She then retrieved a washcloth from the sink in the corner of the room and began cleaning up the mess I'd made. You're a real troublemaker, you know. I swear you couldn't do a thing if I wasn't around, big bro. Oh, that's enough. I covered my face with my hands, then slowly closed my eyes. I'm sorry. I couldn't protect you. What was that from? I slowly opened my eyes and saw a white ceiling. Okay, we're not in our crate because we don't have lights like this. We're not outside because there's a roof. I hear a beeping. Are we actually back in a hospital? It was so bright, it nearly blinded me. I blinked my eyes a few times. I tried to move my fingertips. I raised my hand in front of my face. The palm of my hand created a shadow. At last I was free from the blinding glare. I had been dreaming about Nanami. Ever since I could remember, she'd had an especially strong will. After the bus accident back in elementary school, I'd stopped talking to anyone and everyone. But even so, that part of Nanami only became stronger and stronger. Unlike my parents, who were simply overprotective and nothing else, she'd taken care of me, all while remaining strict and firm. But that dream... Had I ever been hospitalized before? I'd gone in for checkups, sure, but... Well, it was just a dream, so there was no real reason to take it nor the contradiction seriously. I was lying on a bed. It was a white bed with a pipe frame. The sheets were white, the pillows were white, the linoleum floor was white, the wallpaper was white, the fluorescent lights on the ceiling were white, the curtains covering the windows were white, the small shelf next to the bed was white, the ceramic water pitcher was white, the paper cups were white. The wheels were black. Also, there's a green thing on the floor. I was starting to get fed up with all the white. Mustering up my resolve, I attempted to sit up. For a split second, I felt a numbing pain jolt through the area around my waist, but it went away just as suddenly as it had appeared. The room was fairly large, at least twice the size of my base, but what really bothered me was how incredibly dreary it was. Maybe it was a hospital room. Ah, they were slippers. There were a pair of green slippers lined up right beneath the bed. I was relieved to find a color other than white. My body was moving just fine, and it didn't seem like I was dead either. I was thirsty. I wanted a cola. An ice-cold, carbonated cola. But there was no way I'd be able to find something like that in this pure white room, so I was forced to pour water directly from the pitcher into my mouth. Ew. It was a bit lukewarm, but it was enough to satisfy my thirst. Oh, hey! You're back. Upon finishing the water, I took a breath. Okay, what are you going to do? Because you know that Suwa is interested in us. Are you cooperating with him? Did you do a bad? Upon finishing the water, I took a breath. The door then opened, and a nurse wearing white scrubs came into the room. Well, that was enough for me to confirm that I was in a hospital after all. Upon seeing me, her eyes grew slightly wide. I noticed that expression change. She must have thought I would still be asleep. Ah! I see you woken up, Nishiju-san. Facing me, she gave me a gentle smile, the mark of a true nurse. But something told me I'd seen this person before. You have? Oh, I remember her now. She was the grill who'd been at the hospital when I'd gone to see Dr. Takashina a while back. Yes, the grill. What did she say her name was? No. The grill was the receptionist, okay? This isn't George Foreman. I couldn't remember, so I stole a glance at the name tag on her chest. Hazuki was written on it. Right. Hazuki-san. How are you feeling? Hazuki-san held out a thermometer to me so naturally I couldn't help but take it. Could you please stick this under your arm for me? With how nicely she'd asked me, I'd have no choice but to comply. My head was overrun with question marks, but I put the thermometer inside my armpit nonetheless. Immediately after I did so, a memory burst to life inside my head. I remembered what had happened. Well, we're about to freak out. Yeah, this. Back then. I had given up on saving Nanami. I had grabbed onto Shogun's wheelchair. But there had been no response. It had collapsed in a heap, and when I'd looked again, all I'd been holding was Darth Spider's helmet. I love how he says this, like it's an actual character. Count Darth Spider. Ah, yes, the very embodiment of evil in Spark Wars. His black-clad appearance was famous, even in Japan. Is this another attempt at avoiding copyright, like Star Bricks and McDonald's. But I would have never thought that Shogun would cosplay as him, and just his head, so my anger had been overridden by raw confusion. After that, I had stood up and looked at the wheelchair, but there was no one in it. Only a black hood draped over the back of it. That was another part of Darth Spider's costume. I then examined my surroundings one more time, but there had been no one there. I'd been the only one on that pitch-black rooftop. I'm assuming the helmet has a speaker in it. Also, oh my god, that's creepy. Suddenly the press then came flooding in all at once. They had surrounded me with lights, cameras, and microphones. I'd have no room to breathe. There had been more than 10 of them in total. I had been so overwhelmed by it all, my terror simply grew and grew. I wanted to run away, but I couldn't move a muscle. I've been a total mess. What happened to your clairvoyance? Why is this mainstream news? Nishizuku, what happened to your clairvoyance? Does this mean that you don't know who the new gen culprit is after all? Could that Darth Spider helmet have something to do with your psychic powers? Yes, we are Darth Spider. Nishiju-san, would you please answer our questions? If you claim to have nothing more to say, you'll realize you'll have wasted a lot of time and money, right? Not my problem. What was all this for? Was it a publicity stunt to take advantage of New Gen? Don't you find that to be completely inappropriate? What the hell have I done? Have you spoken with Yuri Brightman recently? What did you two talk about? Do you think there's a connection between the earthquake and New Gen? Would I be right in assuming that the anime girl figure you're holding in your hand is some kind of totem you're using in a ritual? Not my waifu. Did anime or video games have any kind of influence on this behavior of yours? Nishijo-san! Nishijo-san! Nishijo-kun! The lighting pointed at me had become incredibly hot. I felt as if my skin was being singed by the sun during the hottest parts of the summer. The flood of people from the media made me feel lightheaded. My field of vision had been spinning around in circles. I've been cornered, I've been panicking, I've been unable to breathe. I grasped my head. I can't see anything, I don't want to see anything. I can't hear anything, I don't want to hear anything. I can't feel anything, I don't want to feel anything. Stop! Leave me alone! At the very same moment I'd screamed, like a computer that had short-circuited, my consciousness had severed. Ding dong. I mean, we didn't tell the media all that stuff. Shogun did. Also, how is your hair doing that? That takes a lot of hairspray. That was exactly what had happened. I'd lost consciousness. And then, how had I ended up here at this hospital? I couldn't remember. At the very least, I didn't think I'd come on my own, so maybe I'd been brought to the hospital by an ambulance. Hazuki-san was writing something on the clipboard she was holding. She must have had a slip of paper clipped onto it. Was she writing about my condition? I checked what time it was via the simplistic watch wrapped around her wrist. It was a little after 6 a.m. I slept for a really long time. Uh-oh. Regardless, why had I been brought here? If Hazuki-san was here, then that meant this was my normal hospital. It wasn't like me being brought to a general hospital was particularly weird, but something still didn't feel right. Why was Hazuki-san coming to check on me? That question really bothered me. I meant, Hazuki-san was a psychiatric nurse. If Hazuki-san was coming to check on me, didn't that mean that the room I was in was also used by psychiatric patients? I mean, you kind of maybe belong here. I gotta side with her on this one. Maybe all the normal beds were full because of all the people who'd been injured in yesterday's earthquake, and they just happened to put me in one of the beds from the psychiatric ward because of that? Or maybe they decided that me collapsing was due to psychological factors rather than physical ones. Also likely. Well, I suppose they wouldn't be wrong then. My mood was gradually getting worse and worse. A family member of yours came to see you yesterday, but yesterday, so we've been here like a day? As you didn't regain consciousness in time, they left around midnight. Your mother informed us that she'll be arriving at around the time we open. I nodded in response, not having the energy to say anything back. Mom, I'm sorry for being such a disgrace. I'm an embarrassment to Japan. No, to the entire world. The entire thing had been televised, meaning it had already spread to the entire country. I was sure my shameful behavior had been uploaded to YouTube as well. I had no idea why I'd been made into the amazing Esper boy. That's right, we have a superhero name now. And it didn't make any sense to broadcast my every move, and on the day of a huge earthquake, no less, when I was nothing but a boring otaku freak. It wasn't normal. Because of that, I couldn't help but think that everyone from back then was being mind-controlled by Shogun. I mean, something was going on that night. Everyone showing up like that was weird, unless they're just tipping off the media, and God knows what that tip would be. But regardless of whether or not that was true, I'd still publicly humiliated myself. It wasn't something I'd escape after enduring a quick shitstorm online that'd be forgotten about in a week. Was this it for me? Would I no longer be able to live in peace? And is my sword still there? Suddenly Nanami's face appeared in the back of my mind. I bit down on my lip and hugged my knees. Even if that was no longer attainable, as long as I could save Nanami, none of it would matter. Even if people from all over the world snickered at me and called me a pathetic loser for the rest of my life, it would make no difference to me. But I couldn't save her. I couldn't even do that much. We haven't confirmed this yet, but I'm not saying he's wrong. We're not on track for the good ending yet, so who knows what Nanami's fate is at the moment. Tears began to fall from my eyes. What's wrong? Are you in pain? Shaking my head over and over, I kept on crying. Nanami was dead. Nanami was dead, and she was never coming back. It was all my fault. All my fault. All my fault. All my fault. See, now, if he's stuck in this hospital, what's happened over the last day? Because if he needs to enact that conversation from the Shogun side of things, he can't really do that when he's being monitored, right? Because of how worthless I was, because of how much of a fucking loser I was, Nanami was dead. Back on the rooftop, I'd given up so easily on obtaining the D-Sword. We didn't give up easily. We spent like an hour trying to get that thing. I had Saratan's seductive voice in my ear, but that was just my pathetic self pretending to be someone else. I was the one who'd made the decision. I'd made myself look like a pitiful victim. I'd chosen to sacrifice Nanami so that I would survive. I hated myself. How fucking pathetic I was. If only I'd tried just a little bit harder. I told myself that I'd given up of my own volition, but now that it was all over, I regretted every single thing I'd done on that rooftop. I was absolutely disgusted with myself. She was gone, nothing could save her now, and yet even still, I couldn't help but think that if I could just go back to that rooftop, and I just tried a little bit harder. But I knew that even if I actually could go back, I'd just give up all over again, finding some other excuse to get me out of it. That was just who I was. A completely useless, irredeemable piece of shit.
Nanami.
Nanami, I'm so sorry.
Nanami.
Watch her be fine, and she was the family member that came by. Hazuki-san rubbed my back in an attempt to comfort me. I was a useless sack of shit to the very end. I was even causing problems for nurses that had nothing to do with me. The tears refused to stop. There's something you regret, isn't there? Well, whatever it is, I'm sure your sister will forgive you. Yes. Very good bedside manner, but not what we need to hear at the moment. Or maybe we do need to hear that Nanami was here and she knows. How did she know that Nanami was my sister? Even that aside, the formulaic consultation she was giving me was the last thing I needed right now. I'm sorry, Hazuki-san, but no one else can understand how I feel. I hated myself. I was pathetic. I did nothing but take advantage of everyone else and only ever thought about myself. The world would be better off without me. Maybe I should just end it all. I was right. So was the whole thing just a bluff and Nanami's like, the fuck are you talking about? You see my phone, by the way? She was very worried about you when she came in yesterday, Nishiju-san. You have the cutest little sister, don't you agree? What was she talking about? Nanami? My little sister is dead. She had been kidnapped by Shogun. Her hand had been cut off, and then she'd been in prison somewhere. And I'm pretty sure all 3 of those sentences are wrong. And in the end, she died all alone and afraid. When I imagined it, it felt like my heart was being torn into dozens of tiny pieces. Oh my goodness, is she really? Forgive me. I'm afraid I made a terrible mistake. All my life I thought that Nanami was annoying, although we had been siblings for 16 years. Even though she called me a jerk more times than I can count, to be fair, you deserved it. She was always worried about me. The reason why she'd always nagged me so much was because she'd been trying to help me break free from my toxic lifestyle. Whenever she brought me food from our parents' house, she didn't just give it to me and leave, she always tried to share it with me. Normally, if a girl her age had an otaku freak for a brother, they'd never associate with him. And while the things she said didn't make her the easiest person to be around, she still talked to me. And she would listen, too. Whenever I'd been at school, she never avoided me. No, she would actually approach me. No matter what, Nanami has always treated me a vile otaku freak virgin. Like her brother. Like a human being. Her mere existence had helped me more than I ever knew, but realizing that did me no good now. It was too late. But if that truly is the case, then what did she mean by big bro? Huh? My boy's not clued in yet. Huh? I looked up, unable to properly comprehend what I had just heard. As my eyes were blurry with tears, I couldn't see Hazuki-san's face properly. What had she just said? She called out to you again and again as you slept. Big bro, big bro. I would have never thought she'd be anything other than your sibling. There was only one person who called me that. Are you telling the truth? Vaulting out of my bed, I pressed Hazuki-san for an answer. Oh, we're freaking her out. I'm sorry? The truth about what? Nanami! My sister, Nanami! Was she here?
Yes.
Well, I didn't hear her name properly, so I... You said she called me Big Bro, right? Yes. Where is she now? Where's Nanami? She went home yesterday. She left together with your mother. Injuries! Did she have any injuries? Tell me she had hands. Huh? No, nothing I could see. So she was okay? Nanami was okay? Yes, although I should clarify, I'm not sure whether or not it was Nanami-san, but the girl who visited yesterday was doing just fine, yes. I wouldn't get terribly attached to her, just means Shogun hasn't killed her yet. Nanami was alive. From everything Hazuki-san had said, it had to be true. I sat down on the bed, utterly dazed. Man, we just believe anything anyone tells us. But how? Shogun had said that he wouldn't give Nanami back to me until I completed his quest. Had he just released her out of pity? Or had Nanami escaped on her own? But then, how would that explain the hand that had been sent to me? According to Hazuki-san, Nanami hadn't even been injured. Did you even consider that the hand I sent to your place was someone else's? I remember him saying that. What he'd said, it hadn't been a lie. He'd played me. I've been dancing right to his tune, as you have been this whole time. Shogun had deceived me. No, that didn't matter right now. I see. So that was it. It was all coming together. Nanami had never been kidnapped at all. Back when I'd been at O-Front trying desperately to grab the D-sword, Nanami must have been relaxing back at home reading manga, or going out to karaoke with her friends so she could show off her shitty singing voice, or doing whatever the hell she likes to do. Okay, but that's great and all, but how's my Cr8 figurine? Were you able to save her? I was crying, but I couldn't help but laugh. Nishijo-san, you okay there? He got me. Shogun got me. Through and through. Yes, sniffles and noises. Yeah, but where are we going from here? What unbelievably epic bait. She was alive. Nanami was alive. I could see that bratty-ass face of hers again. I could hear that obnoxious, shrill voice of hers again. The mere thought was enough to bring me a deep sense of relief and an intense joy that rose from the bottom of my heart. Oh, thank God. I couldn't stop crying, but the tears weren't the tears of regret I'd been crying earlier. Thank God. I was an utterly useless pile of shit, but I couldn't help it. The day before, I'd given up without being able to do anything. For all we know, we've been here for like 3 days. But even so, as long as the Nami was alive, I didn't wish for anything else. The whole world could mock me until the end of time for all I cared. I was overjoyed. Thank God she was safe. Again, don't get too attached. I feel like this is a setup. Oh, here we are with Bon again. Yet another meeting had been called in the main conference room of the Shibuya Police Department, joining one of multiple others that have been held today. Yeah, I bet these guys have been busy. The exhausted, fed-up detectives all wondered how many more hours worth of unproductive meetings they would be forced to sit through. Matsunaga was about to start hearing the reports from each investigator when suddenly Bon hesitantly stood up and raised his hand. This should be good. Do you mind if I say something? What is it? Inquisitive eyes and expressions landed on Bon not just from Matsunaga, but from Suwa and the detective sitting next to him as well. Bon smiled his usual flippant smile, quickly bowed his head, and then looked around the room. I've made a small discovery in the group dive video that was posted to the internet the other day. You talk way too slow. Huh? News to Suwa. The surprise on Suwa's face was evident. I still wonder about Suwa. I think he might be a bad guy. In all likelihood, he was surprised. After all, Ban had examined the video without saying a word to him. It was not because he had wanted to keep it a secret from him, however, no. Assistant Inspector Ban, you are in charge of the crucifixion case. Why are you investigating the group dive? This was the reason. Ban had disregarded the orders he had been given by his boss, the head of the investigation team. If Ban had directly involved Suwa, a promising new detective, his partner would have inevitably been harshly rebuked by their boss, and Ban wanted to avoid this. Ban's a good guy. Well, about that, if you wouldn't mind, could I have you take a look at this? With a chuckle, Ban took out 2 enlarged photos from a file he held in his hand and attached them to the blackboard with magnets. What? Excuse me? What the hell? These are both photos taken from the Cornelius Tower rooftop, the location where the group dive took place. The photo on the right was taken from the video posted on YouTube. The photo on the left is one I took last night when I went to the tower rooftop. There is an obvious change there. Is there a building that stands up that much higher than every other building in the area? I mean, damn. That's a hell of a skyline. Do you notice anything different between the two? Yeah, what is what? The entire conference room began to stir. There's something different in the backdrop. Yeah, can you spot the difference, kids? The camera in the uploaded footage is pointing northeast. The 5 men and women did fall northeast, but that's not the issue. Regardless, at 3 minutes and 29 seconds into the video, for about 15 seconds, the camera swings left and right in multiple very large motions. I remember that. The picture on the right is one taken when the camera was facing to the east. Here, we can see East Cornelius Tower, which faces toward Roppongi. Roppongi? Tokyo Tower is clearly visible in the nightscape. The red makes it stand out pretty well. But, you see, there's one more thing that stands out, but this time, it's something that's not in the picture. Bond's eyes narrowed as he combed his beard with his fingertips, and then a wry smile appeared on his lips. Oh, he's been stroking his stubble all morning, man. He is proud of himself. It's Roppongi Bills. It was true. The lights of Roppongi Bills could not be seen in the photo he had taken from the uploaded video. I mean, it's not just that the lights aren't there. We can see the lights of the buildings behind where it's supposed to be. But in the photo Bond had taken the day prior, the lights of Roppongi Bill's many windows were very clearly visible, along with Tokyo Tower. I happened to come across a few panels in the lobby of Cornelius Tower, ones that were displaying a couple photos from back when the tower was first completed. Wait, what? This is one of those panels. Bond retrieved a new photo from the file and pinned it next to the previous two. It was also a picture of the Roppongi area taken from the rooftop of the tower, but it was not a picture taken at night, it was one taken at day. You can see Roppongi Bills right there. It's under construction, but my point still stands. The commotion in the conference room grew even louder. Matsunaga, meanwhile, remained silent as he stared at the photo with a stern expression. Cornelius Tower was completed in 2001. Roppongi Bills was completed in 2003. In the photo taken back when the tower was completed, Roppongi Bills was still under construction. And as such, it wasn't quite as tall yet. However, the year when the group dive happened was 2008. What? He's talking about the year when it happened. Shouldn't the year it happened to be this year? It was like 2 months ago. What? I need the timeline confirmed here. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense if it wasn't there, don't you think? Roppongi Bills, that is. No, I guess this is 2008. He's just specifying how far along the years were. So the group dive, if it happened like 5 years after that tower was built, the tower should be there, right? Oh, and another thing, there were no signs of the footage being tampered with in any way. Where are you going with all this? We're still haven't touched on the whole... I can't say time travel. This isn't even Steins Gate, and even Steins Gate wasn't technically time travel. Well, I guess it was with one machine. But this popping in and out of different time periods from other time periods, starting with the way Shogun was talking with us from the following day at the beginning of the game. Where is this going and what is happening? Having seemingly lost patience with the detective, Matsunaga urged him onward discontentedly. Well, it's hard to say, but I do have one theory. Wait, sir. Are you saying that the video was taken before 2003? That means it was taken more than 5 years ago. Okay, so it was about 5 years. So I guess this is 2008 we're in now? Dang it, Suwa! Bond's shoulders slumped dejectedly. The young detective's keen insight was brilliant. Suwa had said exactly what Bond had intended to say. However, having it said aloud and in such a straightforward manner only made the claim appear all the more dubious. Ban's careful planning on how to articulate his points had all been for nothing. It's idiotic. I'm afraid someone's been reading too many detective stories. The faces of the 5 victims in the video were identical. There's no way the video was taken 5 years ago. If you've got the time to scour for such trivial clues, then why don't you go do a couple witness interviews, Assistant Inspector? I'll just pretend I didn't hear that. On that note, I've got something to talk to you about, so see me after the meeting. Thanks, Sua. After letting out a short sigh, Ban gave up and sat back down. Well, it's not like I expected him to believe me. Bitter and unwilling to accept defeat, Ban muttered that inside his head before returning to listlessly fanning his face with his handheld fan. And yet, despite all the work he had done, if one were to ask what the absence of Roppongi bills in the video signified, Ban would be unable to answer. Yeah, I'm a little unable to answer too. What the hell's going on here? How does that work? After I'd found out that Nanami was alive, the doctor came to me and asked me a few simple questions. They wanted to make sure whether or not I was well enough to leave. Oh, I just had a thought. Concerning the whole back and forth stuff, I mean, we can talk to ourselves going back a day or two. That's one thing. But the times that we've seen ourselves, the small childlike person in the wheelchair, was that us at some point? Is that why we saw ourselves in that hospital bed during that flashback to Nanami at the beginning of the episode? 5 years ago, were we in a wheelchair and we don't remember? After I'd found out that Nanami was alive, the doctor came to me and asked me a few simple questions. They wanted to make sure whether or not I was well enough to leave. I answered the questions to the best of my ability, and then opted to leave the hospital before my mom came back. We should really go see Nanami and verify things with our own 2 eyes here. After that disgraceful behavior I showed off in front of the entire country, how was I supposed to face my family now? And if Nanami were to come back, I knew that I'd be so happy I'd immediately burst into tears all over again. You should really confirm this. And then, since she wouldn't know why I was crying, Nanami would then take it seriously and start yelling at me not to worry about her, probably while calling me an idiot too. At least return her phone. When I thought about that, I nearly fainted from the sheer embarrassment, and so instead of letting that happen, I decided to employ a strategic retreat. So in other words, we're confirming nothing. A nurse brought in the most disgusting breakfast of all time, and after chipping away at it slightly, I snuck out of the hospital room. I made my way down to the first floor and then into the lobby, past George Foreman, and into the waiting area. The clinic hadn't opened yet, so the lobby that was usually packed with old people was completely deserted. I confidently walked toward the front entrance. Lucky for me, the automatic door opened, giving me free rein to exit the building. I don't suppose we're going to run into Remy here, are we? Because this is the area she was in. The hospital staff might have gotten angry with me for leaving without asking them first, but I had to stay away from the hospital until everything calmed down. As for the medical fees, I left my mom a note telling her to go ahead and pay for it, so it should be fine. Despite the fact that I had stayed overnight at the hospital, I wasn't exhibiting any actual symptoms, and my mental state was doing much better after I'd learned Nanami was alive. So whose hand have I got exactly? Making sure to keep an eye out for any ambushes by Shogun or Yua, I quickly made my way back to my base. And who's waiting for us here? Remy might be here. Is our figure here? Where's the figure? We're going to have to buy a new one. I hope they're not sold out of my waifu. Phew. I'd made it back. My mental state had done a complete 180 since I'd been at my base. Of course, I was feeling a lot better now. If only I could have let my past self know that. You let yourself get baited far too often, mate. I rate 8-8. Lul, mate. Lul, mine. Why mine? There's no reason for you to get so riled up, dude. Nanami's fine, lol. Fuhihi times 100. That's actually one of my favorite ways to respond to bait. It's like, great bait, mate. I rate 8-8. Or something along those lines. Well, I guess we're back to our normal mental state. Thinking back on it, yesterday really had been a living hell. Everything had just gone to shit. I got a weird phone call in the morning. Then there'd been an earthquake. Then the data on my hard drive had disappeared. And then I had to witness Asai trying to off herself right in front of me. We really need to chat with her, too. Then I got an email from Shogun that he'd sent me a severed hand. Are we just going to throw that out? A severed goddamn hand. My mood plummeted in an instant. With a gulp, I turned my attention to the fridge. Is that where you put it? Where's your fridge? Do you have a mini fridge hidden in here? That's where the hand is. Before I'd left yesterday, I decided in my maniacal state to just put the hand in the fridge for the time being. If I'd left it out somewhere, it could have started rotting. The smell of blood was also way too strong for me. There was all sorts of sci-fi anime and movies where as long as they remained frozen, people could stay in a state of suspended animation for hundreds of years. We really need to drop this off at a hospital or something. So that was pretty much what I was going for. I thought that if I could keep Nanami's arm fresh, she might have been able to get it surgically reconnected once she was safe back home. But if that wasn't Nanami's hand, then who the hell did it belong to? And how would that explain the cell phone and the bangle? Yeah, I'm curious how those managed to get stolen as well. I mean, I can see it happening to complete the illusion, but, If I wasn't missing something, then it had to belong to Nanami. When I'd called her, it had rung on the cell phone held in the hand. Or maybe it had all just been a part of Shogun's trap. It's either a mystery or it's just part of the trap. Was it even possible to make such a perfect replica of Nanami's arm? I mean, it's just a hand. I'll just look one more time just to make sure. Is it a delusion? Is it something completely different? In truth, I didn't really want to. The entire hand thing grossed me out. Just thinking about it made me puke, even if it did belong to Nanami. That didn't mean I could just keep it in my fridge forever. Not even my supply of cola stayed that cold in it. I considered asking the police to come take it, but then I realized that they'd just suspect me of being the new gen culprit. Even more than they already did, that is. It would practically be suicide to dial 110 and go, "Hello, yes, please come and take this person's severed hand off my hands, thank you." What should I do? Should I just throw it away? But supposing it was Nanami's arm, it really didn't sound like a good idea to throw it away. Again, we should confirm she has hands. Hell, were you even allowed to throw away human hands like that? Did they constitute as burnable or non-burnable trash? I tore at my hair. There was no point continuing to torture myself over it. I'd just go ahead and check one more time that the bangle was on her wrist and that she was holding her cell phone. Was it Nanami's? Or was it someone else's? That was the question I hoped to answer. What are we going to see in this fridge? I stood in front of the refrigerator and gripped the handle. We haven't seen this angle of the waifus before. I can't tell if these are homages to particular characters or not. My anime knowledge is not that strong. I stood in front of the refrigerator and gripped the handle. I closed my eyes and then I took 1, then 2, then 3 deep breaths. Unsurprisingly, the temptation to just call Remy and ask her to do it for me crept up into my mind, but I quickly shook it away. No matter how good of an ally Remy was to me, there was no way she would freak out upon finding someone's hand in my fridge. And then if I managed to fuck up the explanation, she'd fall out of love with me, assuming a lot here, my guy, and then turn me into the police. I was going to have to do this on my own, somehow. Fuck. I clenched my teeth, took 2 more deep breaths, and then I yanked on the handle with all my might. Well, shit. Oh, sweet, oranges. What? It was empty. Entirely empty, except for the oranges and some cola. I thought for sure that I'd put the hand in there yesterday. It had been wrapped in aluminum foil. It should have been on the top shelf. And yet, there was no sign of it. All that was there was a few bottles of cola and a bunch of rotten clementines. Nothing else. I was trying to remember what it was that Nanami had brought over. Clementines, that's right. Is that another name for oranges? Because those really look like oranges. It's gone. How? Probably the same way it got here in the first place. Whoever had access to your crate to put the box in here had plenty of time to come back and get it while you were in the hospital. Just like that, it was completely gone. I crouched down and looked farther into the refrigerator, but of course it still wasn't there. There wasn't much in there to begin with, so it was already practically empty. There was no way I could have missed it.
昨日ここに入れたよな。
I put it in here yesterday, didn't I? Or maybe I just assumed that, and in reality I just left it somewhere. Well, in that case, follow the smell. I closed the fridge door, then looked around my trash-filled room. The cardboard box is gone too. Oh, you just put it in there in the aluminum foil. The large cardboard box with the hand inside of it. What had I done with it? I felt like I'd tossed it into the corner of my room or something, but either way, my memory of last night was very unclear. More things had happened yesterday than my poor brain could handle, and everything was made all the more brutal due to the utter chaos of it all. Okay, calm down, just calm down. Now get your thoughts together, think of why it might have disappeared. It's because you didn't lock your door and someone came here and did stuff. Oh, our notes. I remember these. I booted up the word processor on my PC and I wrote down all the possibilities I could think of. All right, by mistake, I put it somewhere else, took it outside and threw it away somewhere. Shogun took it back. That seems likely. Police searched the house and confiscated it. Not that likely. The mass media broke in and stole it. Very unlikely. The hand never existed in the first place. That's my second place choice. 3 or 6. I booted up the word processor on my PC and wrote down all the possibilities I could think of. My base had been unlocked ever since yesterday, so if someone really wanted to, they could have come right in and taken it without much trouble. That would also be consistent with how Shogun had been able to put that hand in my room in the first place. Or maybe it was number 2. My memory of when I'd left my base to go to O-Front was unclear. I see we have not yet confirmed the existence of our Cr8 figure. I mean, come on, guy. Priorities. The feeling that I had to save Nanami, seeing the severed hand, how terrified I was of Shogun. All of those emotions swirled around me, invading each and every corner of my mind. I couldn't calm down at all. Maybe I just left my base and tossed the hand in a dumpster somewhere without knowing it. Or maybe the whole hand thing in general had just been a delusion, and it didn't actually exist at all. But when I went to check my email, I found that the one I'd gotten from Shogun yesterday did in fact exist, and in that email, he clearly stated that the hand was a present. Not to mention that Shogun himself had talked about it yesterday. I just couldn't believe that it had been just a delusion. If it was anybody other than Shogun that had done those things, I would say yes, but Shogun is part of your delusion. So, Okay then, what about the possibility that the police or the media took it? Most people looked at otaku freaks like we were no better than shit smeared on the bottom of their shoes, so it wouldn't surprise me. After everything that happened yesterday, I was afraid to look at the internet. And yet, in the end, I couldn't help myself, so I clicked open my browser. First, I checked the news section on Taboo, as well as the news sites I would typically go to. Oh! Well then, I'm in the news. Wonderful. Exactly what I wanted. And sure enough, there were articles upon articles about the uproar yesterday at Scramble Crossing. Is the radio wave hijacking Esper just a boy who cried wolf? Who hijacked radios? Who hijacked radio waves? The ESP show held by the new generation boy ended in the worst possible way. I wasn't aware that it started. In response to the seismic intensity 5 earthquake that struck, news stations broadcasted things today. TV and Fujisun TV began broadcasting simultaneously. The Esper show started at 9 p.m., immediately flooded with calls. The angle here won't let me read a whole lot more. Never mind, I got a better angle. Following 2 stations. When faced with the disappointing end of the show, the nearly 5,000 fans that had crowded in front of Shibuya Station all began to boo loudly for over an hour. 13 arrests. Commotion began with a prank email. Well, we didn't do that. Shogun did that, which means we did that, but ignore that. Living in Shibuya Ward. At first, news stations were skeptical. Claimed that the boy was a clairvoyant Esper who could see the culprit. However, when Yuri Brightman informed today in Fujisun that he would be willing to become the boy's legal guardian, what the hell? So Yuri Brightman was involved in this? Fuck off. The ratings for it was extraordinary, astonishing figures. Although these figures may only be for the simulcast broadcast, blah, blah, blah. However, the boy starring in the show, YN, I guess that's our last name, did not turn out to be an Esper. He repeatedly riled up the audience by motioning like he was going to jump off the building, but his performance did not extend beyond that. Undeterred, everyone went up to the roof to attempt to get a comment, but they were unsuccessful. The boy collapsed holding a Moe anime figure and a costume from a popular Hollywood film. So we got busted with our Cr8 and our Darth Spider helmet. According to otaku culture expert, there had been a rapid increase in the number of young people who dream of becoming heroes, blah, blah, blah. Influence of anime, video games, and other similarly damaging media likely would cause them to act in such a way. Yeah, I hadn't sent any emails to the media. What the hell are you guys talking about? I'd never even seen Yuri Brightman's show, let alone met him. So what the hell? Was this all just part of Shogun's plan like I originally thought? Seems that way. What was his ultimate goal here? He'd said something about it being a quest or something. Well, it was a quest to get a sword, and you fucked it up. Okay then, what was the point of having the mass media televise me to try to get my hands on a sword? I didn't get it. What was Shogun trying to accomplish? He'd even released Nanami alive. I wonder if having us grab the sword would have made it visible on camera, since we were on camera, in the same way that it did for Senna. Do they show up on camera? And if so, I wonder how that affects Fess when she's just whipping it around on stage, because people have taken pictures of her. Questions. I followed the links to various articles, but even after reading through all of them, not a single one of them mentioned Shogun. There had been practically no gap at all between when I'd tackled Shogun and when the media had come bursting onto the rooftop. Even if Shogun had managed to escape during that window, the media would have seen him. Oh, he was just never there. And not only that, but Shogun was supposed to be stuck in a wheelchair. He was supposed to be paralyzed. So there was absolutely no way he would have been able to escape the rooftop in such a limited time frame. I mean, we just assume that. He's sitting in a wheelchair. That's all we know. Hey, our figure! Okay, Cr8 is fine, so all is well. I went to check that channel. And to no one's surprise, an enormous shitstorm was going on. My real name was being plastered everywhere. Well, fuck my life. The uniform that Nishijo dumbass was rocking is from Sume, isn't it? Are there any Sume students in this thread right now? That guy's a terminal fucktard. Do us all a favor and off yourself, you piece of human trash, Lamau. Nishijo, you need to calm the fuck out. For fuck's sakes. It'll be your fault if otakus start getting beat up again. They found him carrying a figure, lol. It was a goddamn Sarah Bloodtooth figure, Lamau. What the fuck? And just like that, otaku freaks around the world all just shed a tear. This Nishiju fucker should have just stayed inside like the shut-in he is. TV's not for him, lol. Sarah would be like, Nishijo, you big dum-dum. Time for me to kick your fat butt with my awakened form rocket body blow attack. Oh, some rando who was a classmate of his last year already came out and doxed the guy. I can't do this. Everyone was just saying whatever the hell they wanted to. They weren't even considering how I felt as they talked all this shit about me. Having @channel as your enemy was a scary thing. And it was all Shogun's fault I was in this mess. I was wondering if anyone had leaked any sensitive information onto @channel, the stuff that couldn't be aired on TV, but I couldn't find anything that fit that criteria. I hadn't been alone on that rooftop. There had been one more person, and yet not a shred of information had come out about them. Did that helmet not have a speaker in it? I mean, I feel like that's something that should have been checked. It was almost like the being known as Shogun had never been there in the first place. Maybe the Shogun that appeared on the rooftop was just an illusion. Maybe, even if I know for a fact that he exists, there's a possibility that the Shogun I saw at O-Front was just a delusion I created. I think I'm losing my mind. There were so many things happening that shouldn't have been possible in real life. It was more like a video game at this point. I don't like how the screen is drifting. Like there were two worlds, one where Nanami was alive and one where she was dead. And the two options were running parallel to one another, meaning I got to choose between them. Just like a choice you'd find in an eroge. The future was divided into countless different branches. And what made me different from normal people was that I could simulate what story events might occur using my delusions. and I was in the middle of simulating the route that would lead to the bad ending. Oh, is this a hint? Like one where Nanami died, or one where Ayase jumped to her death, or one where I fell off O-Front and died. I mean, in the bad ending, we were pushed, so that's worth considering. In other words, for some reason, all these things that you normally find in the bad ending route could be coming after me, almost like they were hunting me down due to a trap I myself had set. Maybe I just had the desire to leave behind my boring, uneventful life and go to a more exciting world like one from a game, and because of that, I've been unconsciously showing myself what that would look like. That couldn't be it. I didn't have any desires even remotely like that. Or at the very least, I would never want to make myself go through anything that'd make me feel sad or scared, simulation or not. Besides, the power of imagination can only take you so far. What I'd been considering was nothing more than some childish bullshit delusion I'd come up with without thinking. I wonder if Senna's going to have some comments about this. I sighed, leaned back in my chair, and looked up at the ceiling with a blank stare on my face. Reality isn't set in stone. Anything and everything just felt fake. The world I was living in was completely hollow. Jump scare? Oh. New Gen's 6th case confirmed? Damn. Woman in her 20s. Uh-oh. Found dead in Shibuya River of Shibuya Ward on October 28th. The woman died of asphyxiation after consuming the flesh of her own right hand and choking on a bone that lodged itself in her throat. Several questions. Okay, first of all, woman in her 20s. So it's not Rimi, it's not Nanami. I don't think it's anyone that we actually know. The woman Bon was talking with, Momose or whatever her name was, she is too old. It wouldn't be the nurse, because she had her hands. We just saw her. I don't think any other female characters fit the bill. At around 8 p.m. this evening, the body of a woman was found dead in the Shibuya River of Shibuya Ward. Well, there we go. The victim, 27-year-old Tokacha Ayami-san of Itagawa Ward, is believed to have died of choking-induced asphyxiation. According to the investigation, the flesh of the victim's right hand had been scraped off, exposing the bone, and what appeared to be human flesh was found in the victim's stomach. It's not lost on me that we're talking about a right hand, by the way. The victim is believed to have chewed apart and eaten her own right hand. As well as this, her ankles were bound together by string. The police are currently investigating this incident as both a suicide and a finger food. My God. I hate the internet. I hate it. You guys, no, you need to stop. Finger food, numbskull. I'm not sure if these names are amazing or atrocious. Ever since the seismic intensity 5 earthquake, the city of Shibuya had been overwrought with an air of pure bloodlust. Also that. The sense of order in the city had been visibly deteriorating. This decrease in security was not just regarding fights among young people, but the increasing number of store windows being broken, as well as a large surge in thefts. The media continued to use the term new generation in order to establish a feeling of crisis and entrapment, and in response to such fear-mongering, a handful of stores had abruptly ceased operation. We've also seen some protests, too. In addition, a group calling themselves the Anti-New Gen, well, I guess that's the protest group, had suddenly transformed into a riotous mob during one of their weekly demonstrations, charging the Shibuya police station and resulting in the arrest of over 100 people. Yeah, because the police need to be taxed even more. Much like the Esper Boy riot, thousands upon thousands of curious onlookers gathered in the area in order to enjoy yet another shitstorm. There was a striking difference in excitement between those who were visiting the city and those who lived in it. The former expected Shibuya to be more brutally eventful than ever, while the latter condemned the lawlessness of their home and insisted on strengthening police authority. Then, as if to mock all of the uproar, the 6th New Gen incident occurred, and of course, the perpetrator had yet to be apprehended. Well, I feel like that's as good a time for a cutoff point as any for the episode. We've been suspended from school. Well, that saves us from being awkward at school now, doesn't it? But, questions continue to abound, but I do still feel like we're getting pretty close to the end here. I think achievement-wise in Steam. I've only got a couple of chapters left. Of course, we're headed for a certain ending, which isn't going to answer all our questions, but we're heading for an ending. Let's see what happens, but I'll see you guys next time for the continued misadventures of our boy here. And hopefully we don't find any more dead people. But take care, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.